Good morning. Here's your catch-up on the last 21 hours. You had 30 videos worth diving into, covering everything from AI security lockdowns and robotics breakthroughs to Tesla's Semi finally entering production, and some fascinating discoveries about recursion in AI reasoning. The big AI security story this morning comes from Ruiz, who's reporting that the White House has blocked Anthropic from expanding access to their Claude Mythos model. This is significant because Mythos is their advanced cybersecurity AI that can complete multi-step cyber attacks end-to-end. Anthropic wanted to expand preview access from 50 to 120 organizations, but the government stepped in citing national security concerns and compute limitations. What makes this particularly notable is that we're seeing AI models transition from being treated like software as a service to controlled national infrastructure. The UK's AI Security Institute has been testing these models using a 32-step simulated corporate network attack that takes human experts about 20 hours to complete. Claude Mythos completed this in about 3 out of 10 attempts, while OpenAI's new GPT 5.5 completed it in 2 out of 10 attempts. But here's the kicker: GPT 5.5 also solved a reverse engineering challenge in just 10 minutes using $1.73 in API costs, a task that would take a human expert roughly 12 hours. Ruiz was particularly fired up about what he called bad takes from engineers who dismiss AI capabilities by comparing them to their own world-class abilities. His point was that, while AI might not dramatically improve the capabilities of the top 1% of technical experts, it could enable the other 99% who lack those skills to perform sophisticated attacks. The situation suggests we're moving toward a soft licensing regime where the government decides who gets access, though no formal laws exist yet. Speaking of AI economics, Primogen covered some concerning developments in the AI economy, showing real cracks in the foundation. Anthropic, everyone's favorite good guys, according to Primogen's sarcastic tone, got caught running deceptive pricing tests. They secretly removed Claude code usage from their $20 plan for some users, showing them it was only available in the $100 plan, and then actually charged the higher price to users who saw the modified version. This isn't your typical painted door test, where companies reveal the experiment afterward. They just charged people more. Microsoft made similar moves with GitHub Copilot, switching from action-based to token-based billing because different models have vastly different costs. The financial reality is stark. OpenAI's $120 billion investment will only last 18-24 months at their current $5.7 billion monthly burn rate. Even Uber burned through their entire year's AI budget in just 4 months after encouraging maximum AI usage. Primogen contrasts this with Google's position as the real winner. They can pour over $100 billion annually into AI while staying profitable from other businesses, meaning they don't need the same desperate marketing tactics. Despite being cynical about the business practices, he ended on a genuinely optimistic note about the opportunities for developers, emphasizing we're living in an incredible technological era. On the more optimistic side of AI infrastructure, the AI Daily Brief covered what they're calling the emergence of harness-as-a-service platforms. The host was genuinely excited about this concept, particularly highlighting Cursor's new SDK that represents a major shift from the DIY era of agent building to pre-built infrastructure. They broke down AI agent evolution into 3 phases. First was the weights phase focused on bigger models. Second was the context phase with prompt engineering and RAG, and now we're in the harness engineering phase where intelligence resides not just in the model, but in the entire environment, including persistent memory and execution sandboxes. The big tech earnings were impressive across the board. Google Cloud up 63%, Microsoft Azure up 40%, Meta revenue up 33%, but Google emerged as the clear winner with 22% top-line growth, and their infrastructure now processing 16 billion tokens per minute. What's particularly striking is how harnesses dramatically improve model performance. GPT 5.5, with Cursor's harness, achieved 23.5% on security tests and jumped from 61.5% to 87.2% on functionality tests. Early applications include agents embedded directly in Gmail and Chrome plugins for IT triage. The host was so enthusiastic, he jokingly gave listeners full permission to call in sick on Friday to dive into experimenting with these new tools. Swyx shared how his 9-person AI engineer team uses these coding agents to run their $9+ million conference business, demonstrating agents breaking out of pure coding into everything else. He was evangelical about the productivity gains, describing how their contract designer showed him a Figma design expecting 1-4 weeks implementation time, but with Devin Agent, they got a pixel-perfect website in very short order, the actual AI engineer site visitors see today. The team began tackling projects they'd never normally attempt simply because the feedback cycles were faster and more enjoyable. Swyx emphasized that agents eliminate, yak shaving, those tedious dependency management tasks, making work more creative and fun. They now manage their entire conference as a data problem, with Devin handling speaker changes, scheduling, and ETL tasks from vendor systems. He even used Devin to research where to buy lobsters in London for their conference decorations. The key insight was that this represents coding agents breaking containment into broader knowledge work, with Malt's Keynote showing 60% of Versal's user base is now bots rather than humans, meaning APIs matter more than dashboards. For those interested in the hardware side, Alex Ziskind demonstrated something fascinating wiring together a DGX Spark and Mac Studio to split AI inference tasks. He used the GPU for prompt processing and Apple Silicon for token generation, achieving meaningful performance gains despite significant complexity. Alex was enthusiastic about the technical challenge, but refreshingly honest about limitations. The concept is called disaggregated prefill and decode. The DGX Spark excels at the compute-heavy prompt processing phase, while Mac systems handle memory bandwidth-heavy token generation better. After months of networking frustrations, including broken MDNS discovery, he got it working with direct connections and eventually upgraded to a Thunderbolt 5 setup with Mellanox networking. Testing with Llama models showed the disaggregated setup could achieve GB10 class time-to-first token with faster decode than the GPU alone. However, the 30% networking improvement still meant significant overhead, and he concluded that while this works as proof of concept, most users would be better off investing in a single high-end RTX Pro 6000 workstation card that would demolish the entire 2-machine setup on both prefill and decode. Nate Jones from AI News and Strategy provided a comprehensive guide to building what he calls a personal AI computer, arguing that AI agents are driving a return to personal computing because they need deep integration with local files and workflows. His tone was evangelical about local AI ownership, clearly passionate about the vision while being practical about cloud versus local trade-offs. The key insight is that as AI agents become more useful, they need access to fundamental computing primitives: files, processes, permissions, memory. The most valuable AI work often isn't the hardest in abstract terms, but what's closest to personal context. He outlined hardware considerations from Mac Mini M4 Pro with 64 GB for learning to Mac Studio with up to 512 GB unified memory, CUDA setups with RTX 5090s or DGX Spark systems. His buying rule was practical. Don't buy for the biggest model you read about. Buy for what you'll run daily. The runtime layer is crucial. Tools like Llama provide clean interfaces, while advanced options include VLLM and TensorRT-LLM. Most importantly, he emphasized memory architecture as what turns this from a toy into infrastructure, with his Open Brain project providing SQL-driven database with MCP server support. The goal is building portfolios of models for specific workloads rather than seeking one universal model. Moving to robotics, Gavin and Kevin from AI for Humans highlighted what they're calling robots ChatGPT moment. They were genuinely excited about American robotics companies making moves against China's dominance. Figure Robotics achieved production of 1 robot per hour, while 1X plans 10,000 robots annually, both opening U.S. manufacturing plants. The centerpiece was Exo Robotics video showing a robotic claw grasping a raspberry, which, unlike typical sped-up DMOS, was actually slowed down because the real movement was impressively fast. The robot was trained entirely in simulation through millions of virtual attempts before applying knowledge to real-world tasks. Kevin noted safety concerns about physical robots where edge cases could become deadly in milliseconds. They discussed exponential possibilities, including robots building other robots and inevitable military applications. The show concluded with their first AI Sloppies Award for Amazon's AI-generated podcast feature that creates conversational reviews of products, which had them cracking up over discussions of diaper rash cream pronunciation and fake dog poop prank products, complete with customer feedback requesting more authentic scent. In AI research breakthroughs, Francois Chaubard at Y Combinator discussed Recursion as a powerful alternative to scaling model size. He was clearly excited about research showing small models using recursive inference can outperform massive pre-trained models. 2 papers from 2025 demonstrated that models with just 728 million parameters achieved 70-87% on ArcPrize tasks, while GPT-3 scored 0%. The higher goal reasoning models used a 3-level recursive architecture inspired by brain frequencies, while tiny recursive models simplified this to a single shared network. The key innovation was avoiding full backpropagation through time using deep equilibrium approaches and treating each recursive iteration as a different batch in memory space. Chaubard emphasized this resembles expectation maximization algorithms, where low-level hidden states explore local constraints, while high-level states propose candidate solutions. The current limitation is task specificity. These are specialized models that can't generalize across problems. But the exciting direction is combining large models' representation, learning with recursive reasoning in latent space rather than token space. The implications are significant. 7 million parameter models solving problems trillion parameter models can't suggests huge potential gains from this hybrid approach. Dr. Karoli Zolnai-Feher from 2-Minute Papers was absolutely thrilled about Sakana AI's survival simulator, calling it brilliant and admitting he had an almost illegal amount of fun with it. The simulation features 5 AI species competing in a digital Petri dish, demonstrating how environmental conditions determine whether ecosystems become chaotic, stable, monopolistic, or collaborative. He got particularly animated explaining the simulation mechanics, comparing harsh environments to app stores where thousands launch but few survive, and easy funding to AI startups getting billions despite having no DMOS or business models. The most surprising discovery was collaboration emerging despite each organism having only one objective: grow. This happened through a 3-step process: permissive mixing where species spread everywhere, crystallization where stricter rules force dense groupings and clear borders, and finally relaxation where easing conditions create stripes and checkerboard patterns as empires coexist. He concluded with life lessons: being always too loose makes life a soup, being always too strict makes it a prison. The optimal approach is starting loose to find your way, building discipline to establish boundaries, then loosening up to grow and adapt. Dylan Curious covered a wide range of AI developments with his characteristic enthusiastic curiosity. He was visibly excited about his recent video performance and showcased several fascinating developments. Co-Interact from Alibaba creates photorealistic human-object interaction videos for product demonstrations that Dylan predicts will revolutionize e-commerce by replacing static images with personalized AI-generated sales demonstrations. He spent significant time on the OpenAI Elon Musk legal battle, explaining how OpenAI started as a nonprofit, but later added a for-profit arm with Microsoft partnership, leading to Musk's lawsuit claiming broken promises. Dylan revealed new information about Sam Altman's equity situation. While claiming no direct OpenAI equity, he owns the startup fund and has investments in numerous AI-related companies. A concerning development was Chinese AI drama, where real people's faces were used without permission to create villainous characters, with model Christine Lee finding herself portrayed as a cruel antagonist. Dylan connected psychology research showing cooperation naturally declines over time, but can be restored through reminders to AI alignment. suggesting models might need periodic reminders to stay aligned with human values. Former Kosovo President Vjosa, Osmani Sadriu, delivered a powerful TED Talk about what small nations can teach about freedom and democracy. She spoke with the gravity of someone who lived through genocide as a child and later led a nation's transformation. Growing up hiding from shelling while listening to battery-powered radios, hoping someone would come save their lives, she now sits in those same international meeting rooms, remembering millions of children, currently hoping leaders won't turn a blind eye to their suffering. Kosovo's story demonstrates what democracies can achieve when they stand together, a nation that survived century after century of occupation and oppression, never giving up on identity or quest for freedom. She emphasized that countries gain strength not from military might, but from courage to tell their stories in international forums. On AI, Osmani described her experience as not good, explaining how AI can now clone voices, create fake videos, and fabricate meetings that never happened, completely changing narratives. She called truth the real oxygen for democracy, warning that undermining truth undermines democracy itself. Her message was hopeful despite discussing oppression. Kosovo exemplifies religious tolerance where mosques sheltered Catholics and churches sheltered Muslims during genocidal war, guided by Bisa, a code meaning when you promise to protect someone, you do it with your life. Brian Lunjuk covered a concerning development in open-source politics, where a KDE board member called XLibre developers fascists for their inclusive policy of welcoming anyone regardless of political views. Tomas Canabrava, who serves as both KDE advisory board member and Arch Linux maintainer, made this statement when XLibre wanted official packaging in Arch repositories. Lunjuk was frustrated and exasperated throughout, using this as evidence of what he sees as escalating political extremism in open source. His central thesis is that leftist activists and conservatives in open source have intense incompatibility. Conservatives are perfectly happy working with leftists, while leftists so despise those that are not like them that they forbid conservative involvement. He argued this incompatibility flows in only one direction, comparing it to international relations where some groups have explicit policies of destruction against others. Lunjuk noted that these activists have managed to obtain control of a large number of organizations and are becoming more extreme, more ostracizing, and more incompatible with everyone else by the day. He revealed personal stakes, stating his name is banned by most organizations and that the GNOME Foundation has an official, say Luke, you're banned for life policy. Steve Ruiz from tldraw demonstrated their evolution from AI-powered web prototypes to collaborative AI agents directly on their whiteboard canvas. He was enthusiastic despite frequent technical difficulties during DMOS, clearly excited about the breakthrough implementation. Their journey started with MakeReal in 2023, one of the first AI tools to break containment by converting drawn UI mockups into working HTML. They evolved to structured outputs, creating elements available to human users rather than generating images, then moved to agentic loops where AI reviews and iterates on its work. The major breakthrough was deploying agents as fairies animated sprites visible on the canvas that users can interact with directly. When multiple fairies are given tasks, one becomes elected leader, scouts the canvas, creates to-do lists, and delegates work to others while observing and judging completion. This emerged from exploration of agent orchestration and shared state dynamics. The final evolution involved giving agents broader access through a desktop Electron app with an HTTP server that executes any posted JavaScript, acknowledging this as a terrible idea, but arguing it's acceptable for offline applications. This allows agents to manipulate not just the canvas, but the entire application and potentially the desktop environment, with team member Max having Claude remove podcasts from Spotify by manipulating minified code. The AI Engineer Conference featured a hands-on workshop from Braintrust and Trainline showing how to build production-ready AI applications with proper observability. The Trainline team was particularly excited when sharing their real production use cases, emphasizing how they serve 27 million active users, processing 6.3 billion in ticket sales, with sophisticated AI, including a travel assistant handling refunds and changes. The key insight was moving from AI prototypes to production systems requires operational rigor, not just model sophistication. Their core problem was the gap between DMOS that work locally and systems that scale. They demonstrated a support triage agent evolving from single LLM calls to multi-stage agentic workflows with tool calling. Trainline shared how Braintrust enabled them to simulate different model performance through offline evaluation before switching, saving significant costs on OpenAI and Anthropic bills. The workshop covered tracing implementation with real-time capabilities, capturing nested structures, evaluation methodology using both deterministic scoring and LLM as judge approaches, and deployment through Braintrust's managed mode, enabling non-technical team members to modify prompts without code changes. The remediation example showed how to identify failures through traces, modify prompts, and verify improvements, creating a complete feedback loop from production back to evaluation datasets. Stripe's billing solution architect Mayank Pant explained how AI companies are moving from traditional SaaS pricing due to unique challenges like unpredictable compute costs and rapid feature evolution. He was confident and enthusiastic, noting with obvious pride that 78% of AI companies are building on Stripe. The data is compelling. Top 100 AI companies reached $20 million ARR in 20 months versus 65 months for traditional SaaS, 3x faster growth. However, this speed creates pricing challenges traditional models can't address. Survey data showed 33% cite unpredictable compute costs as main concern, with 5–10% of users consuming 80% of compute resources. The solution is hybrid pricing, which grew 7x in 2024 alone from 6% to 41% adoption. Pant presented a 5-step framework. Define value from customer perspective, not technical capabilities. Choose charge metrics that represent customer-understood value. Pick appropriate pricing models, balancing predictability and margin protection. Build guardrails to prevent billing surprises, and iterate continuously as competitive advantage. He emphasized infrastructure choice determines iteration speed. If pricing changes require months of engineering effort, the competitive advantage is lost. The correlation data was striking. Hypergrowth companies changed pricing 3+ times in 2 years, while only 22% of low-growth companies made similar changes. In software engineering practices, Trisha G. and Daniel Terhorsnorth explored whether code reviews are even necessary, identifying 3 distinct types. They were clearly passionate experts who have thought deeply about this topic, getting excited when discussing technical concepts while being refreshingly honest about industry cargo cultism. Daniel's framework distinguished policy reviews, gateway ensuring standards adherence, show-and-tell reviews, knowledge sharing about solutions, and critique, collaborative design evolution. The key insight emerged from Daniel's story about a high-performing trading team where 3 pairs simultaneously solved similar problems differently, triggering an out-of-band architectural alignment session that synthesized approaches into unified solutions. This wasn't gatekeeping but collaborative evolution. The conversation shifted to AI code generation, overwhelming review processes teams generating 10x more code but still requiring human review of every line, creating massive bottlenecks. Trisha emphasized most teams can't articulate why they're doing reviews, calling it cargo cultism rather than purposeful practice. They agreed much policy enforcement should be automated, and humans are bad at spotting bugs but good at scanning for code that doesn't look right. Their recommendation was inverting power structures by having juniors review senior code, because newcomers ask excellent questions, revealing unclear code. Ken Hughes discussed authentic human connection as fundamental to business success, advocating for moving away from ROI-focused thinking toward genuine relationship building. He was relaxed and genuinely passionate, especially about his growth culture critique, calling growth for the sake of growth the ideology of a cancer cell. Hughes firmly stated employee experience must come first before customer experience can flourish, referencing Danny Mayer's principle of employees as your first customer. He expressed frustration with business obsession over ROI, proposing shifting to DTI desire to invest rather than demand for return. Using a striking relationship metaphor, he compared ROI tracking to finding your partner, keeping a ledger of good and bad behaviors to decide whether to give love. Calling this toxic psychopath behavior, yet noting businesses do exactly this with customers. Hughes defended Gen Z against common criticisms, noting their emotional intelligence from growing up exposed to these conversations. His flat is the new black concept questioned why companies can't aim for less rather than constantly expanding. He shared powerful stories including Carrie Drake's United Airlines experience, where crew coordination helped him reach his dying mother, and Intermountain Health's CEO serving hospital meals to model behavior and gather patient feedback dining staff receives that doctors don't. John Mita from Microsoft Developer shared practical wisdom about maintaining evaluation standards in AI content generation through his standing beacon concept. Speaking in his characteristic warm, mentor-like tone, he explained how teams often forget to implement proper evaluation systems when generating multiple iterations of content. Using manufacturing analogies about factory quality inspectors with their inspected by Janet labels, he emphasized the need for systems that can assess quality and reject poor outputs. The key insight is maintaining a clear standard or beacon that defines what good output should look like, similar to how plants need to know which sun to turn toward. His advice was straightforward. Implement evaluation systems, establish guardrails, create judge mechanisms that can reject poor outputs, and ensure your system always knows its directional orientation as it develops. This was part of his 2026 Design in Tech report, representing practical guidance for teams dealing with AI generation workflows, where it's easy to lose track of original intentions and quality standards without proper checkpoints and evaluation frameworks. AMD's Steve Berg discussed their deep technical partnership with Microsoft that has evolved over nearly a decade, emphasizing how collaboration on ePYC processors directly benefits services like Cosmos DB. Berg was measured and professional, but showed genuine enthusiasm when discussing technical evolution from Naples to Turin processors. The partnership began when Microsoft was the first cloud provider to offer AMD's ePYC Naples processors in 2017, creating what he called a unique bond. Over the past decade, they've launched 5 additional ePYC generations available in approximately 60 compute families globally. The collaboration involves deep engineer-to-engineer work on roadmap changes, resulting in innovations like confidential computing capabilities, 3D Vcache technology, and high-performance bandwidth implementations. Berg emphasized their focus on performance per watt per dollar as the critical optimization metric, which directly translates to cost benefits for users. He made a notable point about CPUs becoming increasingly important in the AI era, calling them the new bacon for inference workloads, orchestration, pre- and post-processing, agentic AI, and general-purpose computing. The prediction is that cloud infrastructure will evolve from general-purpose commodity machines to increasingly customized and differentiated platforms. Microsoft's Kirill Gavrilyuk announced major AI-focused updates to Azure Cosmos DB, clearly excited about positioning in the agent-driven development world. He highlighted that over half of Cosmos DB customers now use coding agents, leading to development of agent kits with 80-plus skills covering the entire app lifecycle. The keynote featured impressive guest speakers, including Guillermo Roch from Versal, who was struck by how the addressable market for software creators has increased 100 times as agents enable anyone to create applications. He shared how a high school friend with no coding experience successfully deployed an app via Claude to Versal, praising Cosmos DB's serverless architecture and RU cost model alignment with token-based AI economics. OpenAI's John Lee presented remotely, explaining how they execute 1.4 trillion daily transactions against Cosmos DB storing over 45 petabytes. He emphasized needing databases that scale from 0 to millions of queries per second, instantly, since OpenAI features go from no usage to hundreds of millions of users immediately upon launch. Major announcements included built-in semantic search capabilities 50 times more cost-efficient than standalone systems, Azure DocumentDB as a fully open-source alternative 40% cheaper than MongoDB Atlas, and Multi-Cloud DB, a new MIT-licensed open-source project providing cross-cloud portability across Azure, AWS, and Google with disaster recovery capabilities. Andrew Liu provided an in-depth technical walkthrough of Azure Cosmos DB's internal architecture through an engaging live whiteboarding session. He was enthusiastic and educational throughout, clearly passionate about the engineering innovations. The architecture explanation covered how requests flow from SDK through control plane and data plane, with the control plane wrapping Azure Resource Manager for resource management, and the data plane handling actual database operations through gateway servers routing to distributed backend federations. Key concepts included physical partitions supporting up to 10,000 request units per second and 50 GB storage, achieving infinite scale through aggressive sharding across numerous partitions. Liu spent considerable time explaining consistent hashing versus naive hashing for partitioning, demonstrating how consistent hashing treats hash values as a ring using range partitioning to avoid massive data shuffling when scaling. The replication discussion covered quorum replication achieving 5 nines availability, unlike traditional primary-secondary models. Quorum allows writing to majority of replicas, so any single replica can fail while maintaining availability. New features highlighted included RU pooling in Cosmos DB fleets, allowing sharing unused capacity from cold to hot partitions through global rate limiter operating via heartbeat, maintaining shared nothing architecture while enabling better burst handling. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to provide detailed notes for Maximilian Schwarzmüller's chatting and AMA and stuff video, as the transcript content wasn't accessible in the provided materials. Max Tech walked through 10 leaked updates about Apple's iPhone 18 series with high energy and excitement, particularly about camera upgrades and new colors. The major news is Apple's plan to split the launch for the first time 3 premium models in September: 18 Pro, 18 Pro Max, and Ultra, with 3 models delayed to spring 2027, base iPhone 18, iPhone Air 2, and budget 18e. Camera improvements are significant with dummy models showing 0.65 thicker camera plateaus and bigger individual bumps, indicating variable aperture main cameras and improved telephoto systems. 4 confirmed Pro colors include light blue, dark gray, standard silver, and a striking dark cherry red. The dynamic island is getting smaller, measuring 14.98 versus the current 20.06. The iPhone Ultra when folded has same width as Pro Max, but is shorter for easier one-handed use, while unfolded it's 56.9% taller, providing better 16:9 video viewing. However, Ultra has 3 problems: no MagSafe support, no telephoto camera, and no action button. The base iPhone 18 gets a major upgrade to 12 GB RAM instead of expected 8 GB, making it much more capable for Apple Intelligence, though Apple will downgrade other components like using M12 Plus display panels and reducing a 20-chip GPU from 5 to 4 cores to maintain the $800 price point. Low-level covered copy fail, a devastating local privilege escalation vulnerability affecting every Linux distribution since 2017. The presenter was genuinely excited about what he called one of the most beautiful exploits he's ever seen, contained in just a 732-byte Python script. This isn't a race condition or kernel-specific offset issue, but a logic bug that works universally across distributions without modification. The vulnerability exploits AFLG sockets, which allow user space programs to access kernel cryptographic algorithms. The attack involves sending data via sendMessage to populate input scatter lists, then using Splice to pipe the crypto socket with a file descriptor of /usr/bin/su. When the crypto algorithm runs and writes scratch data, it writes into the cached page for the su program. By repeating with different offsets, attackers can overwrite the entire su binary in memory 4 bytes at a time, replacing it with shellcode. When exec is called on usr/bin/su, the kernel uses the modified cached version containing shellcode, but still recognizes it as a setuid binary, so the shellcode executes with root privileges. The vulnerability stems from a 2017 optimization for IPsec algorithms using extended sequence numbers, where the kernel uses a reference to the tag's page as output during HMAC computation. The fix involves reverting this optimization, available in mainline commit A664B. Mike from Game From Scratch demonstrated how Gaussian splats could revolutionize game-level design by enabling developers to scan real-world environments and convert them into playable levels. He was clearly impressed when demonstrating Play Canvas's breakthrough implementation, emphasizing this as really cool stuff multiple times. Traditional level design involves building geometry, then applying textures through UV unwrapping. But Gaussian splats use point clouds with color information in each point to recreate detailed 3D environments from real-world camera scans. Play Canvas solved the major challenges of collision detection and performance through their collision mesh generation system, creating low-poly proxy geometry and SOG streaming format, breaking splat data into chunks with manifest systems. The runtime loads chunks on demand based on camera viewport and device capabilities. High-end desktops get full detail while phones receive lighter subsets. The workflow involves running splats through transform tools to generate collision meshes, baking lightness grids, creating navigation meshes for AI pathfinding, and implementing game logic. Mike connected this to broader engine support, noting GOTO has similar capabilities. He extensively covered SuperSplat as both viewer and repository for splats, highlighting examples like a computer museum scan that's only 45 megabytes despite incredible detail. The technology's potential extends to gamifying real-world spaces, though traditional polygonal workflows still have advantages in editability and file size for non-realistic content. The Electric Vikings, Sam Evans, covered major lithium discoveries with characteristic enthusiasm and energy. The U.S. has discovered an estimated $90 billion worth of lithium deposits in the Appalachian Mountains containing 2.5 metric tons, enough to supply America's needs for hundreds of years and potentially end import reliance. The USGS Geological Survey research identified 18 lithium-rich districts across the range, with most concentrated in North and South Carolina, Maine, and New Hampshire. This could supply around 1.6 million grid-scale batteries, enough to power 130 million electric cars or 180 billion laptops for a collective 1,000 years of global use. The deposits equal 328 years of imports at 2025 levels and could reshuffle global lithium rankings, potentially moving the U.S. up from its current position. These Appalachian pegmatites formed from forces that built the mountains over 250 million years ago during ancient tectonic collisions, creating supercontinent Pangaea. Evans contextualized this against current global production, where Australia leads with nearly half the supply, while China dominates refining. He also mentioned related developments at California's Salton Sea, describing new iron phosphate particle methods for efficiently extracting lithium from various water sources that could give America advantages competing with China for lithium resources. Sam Evans covered Volkswagen's ID Polo launch with measured enthusiasm, praising the design while expressing skepticism about pricing competitiveness. The ID Polo represents an electric version of their popular hatchback, with over 20 million combustion Polos sold over 50 years. While the headline entry price is €24,995, only the mid-spec Life trim at €34,000 is currently available, which he found pricey for the size. Technical specifications include base models with 114 horsepower, using 37 kWh LFP batteries, providing 204 miles range with 90 kW charging, while higher performance variants get 208 horsepower with 52 kWh NMC batteries, extending range to 283 miles with 105 kW charging. The electric platform provides practical benefits including 25% increase in cargo space from 351 to 441 liters and more comfortable rear seating. Evans praised the exterior as a more masculine, chiseled Polo, resembling the 2023 concept car, with retro interior featuring dual screens. 3 trim levels offer progressively more features, with standout capabilities including standard 3.6 kW vehicle-to-load for powering external devices and impressive 1,200 kg towing capacity for such a small car. However, he remained concerned about pricing competitiveness, especially in markets like Australia, where it would approach $50,000 and face competition from longer-range vehicles. Staying with the electric Viking, Sam Evans was notably enthusiastic and vindicated when sharing positive news about Australia's electricity market transformation. Wholesale electricity prices dropped 12% year-over-year as the country more than doubled its battery storage capacity in 12 months. The data showed 4,445 megawatts and 11,219 megawatt-hours of new large-scale batteries were added, with batteries now setting electricity prices in one-third of trading intervals and displacing hydro as the most frequent price-setting technology. This massive expansion is reshaping electricity markets as batteries charge during cheap daytime solar periods and sell at higher evening rates, undercutting traditional peaker plants and gas generation. Renewable energy performance was impressive with 46.5% of generation in first quarter despite 1.2% increased demand. Rooftop solar reached 4,090 megawatts, representing 16% of total supply, making it the single largest renewable contributor and suppressing coal and gas during daytime. Grid-scale solar hit 2,706 megawatts, up 13%, while wind reached 3,845 megawatts, up 9.3%. Evans took pointed jabs at political opponents who advocate nuclear power, suggesting they ignore positive renewable developments. He concluded by sharing his personal experience paying nothing for electricity while running his home, sauna, and charging 2 electric cars, attributing this to his battery installation. Sam Evans announced that Tesla has begun mass production of the semi-truck at their Nevada Gigafactory after 7 years of delays, calling it "pretty big milestone that will disrupt the American trucking industry enormously." His tone was enthusiastic but realistic about trucking industry complexities. The 1.7 million square foot facility is designed for 50,000 trucks annually, with vertical integration advantages, including 4680 battery cell manufacturing in the same building. Final specs include standard range with 325 miles at full 82,000 pound weight and long-range version with 500 miles, priced at $260,000 and $290,000 respectively, making it the lowest-priced Class 8 battery electric tractor available. Technical highlights include 800-kilowatt trimotor drivetrain producing 1,072 horsepower with 1.2 megawatt peak charging, allowing 60% range recovery in 30 minutes. However, Evans delivered a key reality check about trucking industry practices unlike cars. Trucks are heavily customized for different customers, making the highly efficient production line concept somewhat mythical since orders require individual modifications. Despite this, Tesla faces little real competition, with California Clean Truck Program data showing 965 of 1,067 applications were for Tesla semis versus fewer than 100 combined for competitors, over 90% market share before mass production even began. Finally, Yang declared Marathon effectively dead just 2 months after launch, delivering his verdict with funeral-like certainty about the extraction shooter's fate. The financial picture is dire. 1.2 million copies sold at $40 each against a conservative $250 million budget, generating roughly $80 million total revenue, including microtransactions, nowhere near breaking even on Sony's massive $3.6 billion Bungie acquisition. Player retention trends tell the real story, with Steam concurrent numbers dipping below 10,000 and consistent downward trajectory since launch, while Arc Raiders maintains peaks above 100,000 players. Yang identified core problems. Marathon is too sweaty and hardcore for casual players, while even dedicated fans face balancing issues like grenade spam and overpowered weapons, creating cheap-feeling matches. Bungie's proposed solution involves Dire Marsh-sponsored, mode stripping away extraction mechanics for Battle Royale format, which Yang Ye sees as desperate abandonment of core identity. He reflected on what Marathon could have been, imagining combination of Bungie's renowned FPS gameplay with cinematic storytelling that made Halo and Destiny successful rather than just an extraction shooter. Gaming journalists Paul Tassi and Gene Park, both live service enthusiasts, expressed that Marathon feels like wrong game for Bungie to make. Unless something truly drastic happens, Yang Ye predicts Marathon will join the graveyard of failed live services within months to a year. That's your comprehensive catch-up on the last 21 hours. From AI security clampdowns to robotics breakthroughs, pricing strategy evolution to infrastructure developments, it's clear we're in a period of rapid transformation across multiple technology domains. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.